Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Daily Elk Citian's football preview. We're going to quickly, as we always do, recap last week's game. Clinton was pretty dominant in their win over Elk City. They topped the Big Elks 62-27 at the Tornado Bowl in Clinton, Oklahoma, and it happened pretty fast. Clinton went for about 68 yards downfield on the first play of the game, as we would find out later that coaches schemed against all week, but nonetheless, the Red Tornadoes still went big on that first play. It helped set up a touchdown run from Aaron Lustfield, who would score two more times on his own, and really it just got out of hand very quickly. Clinton ran 3 plays from the line of scrimmage and was up 14-0 in the first 2 minutes. Elk City turned it over on their first 3 possessions, and Clinton scored on all of those. In total, Clinton had 35 points off 4 Elk City turnovers. Clinton did not fail to score on a possession until a minute 50 left in the third quarter, when the backups were in. They scored a touchdown on every drive. And it was ugly. When Elk City wasn't turning the ball over, they were able to move it. Colin Feller finished with 336 yards passing. Was let me see here, 33 of 49 for the game. Elk City had about 400 yards total offense. They moved the ball, but turnovers just hurt them in the first half. They weren't able to punch in a score until it was 41-7. That score was one of freshman Shane Thornton's 3 touchdowns on the night. Freshman scored all 27 points for Elk City. The 3 touchdowns by Thornton and Josh Adams and Austin Main, freshman quarterback, hooked up for a 64-yard touchdown pass in the fourth quarter with the backups in the game. And so it was a night where the freshmen were able to get in and make some plays, and they did. It could have certainly been a shutout the way Clinton plays defense, but Elk City didn't allow that to happen. Leading receiver for the game for Elk City was Jarvay Jackson with 71 yards. That game was over fairly quickly, and by the same token, Elk City would like to forget about it quickly, because they have a tough rivalry game Friday against Woodward, which over the past 10 years or so has just increased with its intensity. The 2 teams are separated by over an hour drive, but there seems to be this lingering nastiness between the schools. Even this morning, head coach Jason Scheck said that he had heard from a reliable source in the past that some of these games, not necessarily football games, but sporting events, have been canceled just due to the intense nature of the rivalry. So players are fired up for it. Elk City, as it stands right now, 1-6, 0-5 in the district, 2 home games left. Woodward and Cash. Playoffs are out of the picture, but it's all about pride, and so to get a home win against Woodward it would be great for that team, and in order to get it done, they're going to have to stop a Woodward team that's going to run the ball and control time of possession. Scheck said that's his main concern, that Woodward's going to try and run it and keep it away from Elk City and their spread offense. At least that's what they've done in the past, he said, since Elk City has instituted that offensive game plan. Against Cash in a 38-28 win last week, Woodward had 335 yards rushing. They're sitting right in that 4th spot to make the playoffs, so this game doesn't mean anything for Elk City in regards to the playoffs, but it does to Woodward. So Woodward's not going to come in here or come into Elk City unfocused, because their playoff chances are still on the table, and Elk City could play the spoiler and wreck those chances. Scheck said, rather than play the spoiler, he's more interested in his team going out and playing for pride and playing a good game against a fierce rival. Moving on to some Woodward players, Jake Hughes and Caleb Roach connected on touchdown passes of 38 and 15 yards last week. So Woodward especially now that Elk City kind of has a reputation for allowing some of these big plays right off the bat. And don't be surprised to see Woodward try and get a couple cheap ones. Coach Sheck said the same thing. That could easily happen. But what they're going to do is they're going to hand the ball off to Xavier Vo. He went for 152 yards on 18 carries last week, and their quarterback Hughes is capable of running the ball as well. So they're going to look to run the ball for the most part and just make sure their time of possession is much more than that of Elk City's, and it should be an interesting game between two rivals who, over the past decade or so, seem to they haven't lost any love between each other. So it'll be a fun game to watch. Next week, feature-wise, we always tend to look ahead a few days on this blog, and next Wednesday we're going to talk a little bit about Cameron Coulter. We featured him over the summer, and he made a trek to Stanford to take some college classes, and this year slowly has gotten a little bit better. And so we're going to talk a little bit about Mr. Coulter and his senior season. And that does it for this week's edition of our preview. I'm Tyler Palmateer, sports editor for the Daily Elk City, and we will see you next week.